So, what exactly is codependency? I mentioned that term back in a couple videos ago as I kind of relaunched this channel and was talking about a new direction that I was taking. But what is codependency? What does that even mean? I thought that we would take today to just kind of talk about that a little bit, delve into it. And so perhaps if some of you out there are dealing with codependency, either in someone else or maybe you have codependency, this can be helpful for you. Now, I mentioned codependency in that video a couple videos ago because I recently realized that I am a codependent person. But what the heck does that mean? Well, if you're a codependent person, it basically means that you let someone else's behavior or mood or feelings affect you in a major way. You sometimes can become obsessed with trying to control that other person. So you become obsessed with trying to control how that person thinks and how they feel about you, about situations, and all that sort of thing. Now, the other person I'm referring to when I talk about codependency can be a friend, it can be a spouse, it can be a family member, any sort of relationship or person that you have in your life that's in your life and you spend a lot of time with them. One kind of misconception that's out there is that this other person that the codependent is basing their life off of, essentially. A common misconception is that other person is ill in some way, like they're an alcoholic or addicted to drugs, something of that nature. This is not always true. It is common to see that a codependent person becomes a codependent person because they grew up with an alcoholic parent, for example, or they grew up in some sort of dysfunctional situation or family. Sometimes you become a codependent person because you were sexually or physically or mentally abused. But when a codependent person kind of like attaches or faces their world around and is trying to control and protect this other person, it doesn't mean that that other person is an alcoholic or ill in some way. It could be possible. Maybe you're dating an alcoholic, or maybe you're the person that you have the most codependency toward is a brother and he's got a drug addiction. It can be that. But the biggest issue with codependency is maybe this came from a dysfunctional situation, but now it carries over into everything that you do. Why are you barking? I was talking and then you're gonna hear so you can watch and hear, but you have to be quiet, okay? This is a very important video. So if I'm talking about all these things and you're thinking I'm a codependent person, or maybe you've known that you're a codependent person and there's some amount of shame attached to that, which is very common, don't feel ashamed. Most of the time, we become codependent people out of necessity. Like I said, it's usually born out of a really dysfunctional situation or family or some manner of really hard situation. And codependency, revolving our world around this sick person or to protect ourselves and focusing all our energy on trying to keep ourselves from letting this other person hurt us, it serves its purpose, but it's not healthy for us. It leads us to live lives that eventually we can become depressed, become really lethargic, we can become mentally or even physically ill. It just, at the very base, leads us to not even know who we are, because all of our life is revolved around taking care of someone else. First, let's talk about some of the characteristics so you can know if you are a codependent. First of all, let me start by saying that a lot of this information I'm talking about is coming from this book right here. It's called Codependent No More: How to Stop Controlling Others and Start Caring for Yourself. It's by Melody Beattie, I think is how you say your name. And this book is incredible. Just like in my ADHD video, I'm going to preface this by saying that this is a book that a therapist recommended to me when she said, hey, you're a codependent person. And I was like, what does that even mean? She's like, read the book and I think you'll agree. So I started reading the book and right away I was like, this is me. And it's one of those things a lot with the ADHD where it's a relief. Sometimes it's kind of hard to hear that you have a problem, just like any problem. But for me, once you have a label or a name or something to go along with issues that you're experiencing, you can start to heal. That means you can do something with that, as opposed to just feeling frustrated and like you're going crazy and like you're getting increasingly depressed, but there's no answer. When you have a label to attach to it, then you can start actually getting things taken care of. If you're codependent, think you might be codependent, this is an amazing, amazing book. So just know that the things that I'm talking about, I got a lot of them straight from this book. So some characteristics of those of us who are codependent: we feel very, very responsible for other people, other people's feelings, other people's thoughts. So not just their well-being, not just whether or not they get themselves into bad situations. We feel responsible for things that honestly you can't control, like how someone else feels. But codependence, that's the dysfunctional part of it. We try to control those things. So we feel very responsible for other people's feelings, thoughts, actions, all of that. We are always trying to please other people. It's a constant thing. A lot of times this leads to us overcommitting ourselves. We have trouble saying no. You might find that needy people are attracted to you, or you're attracted to needy people. If you're codependent, it's almost like people can sense that your life is all about trying to make other people okay, and so it attracts them. So you might find that there are a lot of needy people being attracted to you. And as a codependent, a lot of times you'll see people, not everybody, but you'll see people, that's their identity. They've recognized that taking care of other people is something that they do, and so they actually gravitate towards people who have issues like alcoholism or just are needy people. We don't know what we want, and then if we do know what we want, we somehow sit there and tell ourselves like that's stupid, or you're not worth it, or we get some amount of guilt when we do know what we want. Now, as codependents tend to blame ourselves for everything. I've sat there and blamed myself over the most ridiculous things that are completely out of my control. I've sat there and said, oh, I bet that's because I did this. We fear rejection, which, I mean, who doesn't? But codependents really fear rejection to the point that it controls like everything that we do, because we're always trying to avoid being rejected. As I mentioned before, we're often victims of sexual abuse, emotional abuse, physical abuse, have some history with that, or maybe we just grew up in a dysfunctional family, maybe we were a child of an alcoholic or married to an alcoholic, or had a sibling or a best friend who was a drug addict, some sort of bad situation like that. We have really crappy, really weak boundaries, or no boundaries at all. We take things very personally, which is really not cute. It's not a good thing. It makes living life very hard when we take everything personally. We might have a lot of shame or feel very ashamed of who we are. We have abnormally high anxiety over people, situations, things, just really high anxiety. And sometimes we'll do stuff like wait to express our opinions until we know the opinions of other people, because we either think our opinions don't matter, or we're just so worried that our opinion might offend someone else, or we're just so worried that our opinion might just sound stupid and make us look stupid. So that's just a very short, compacted list of some of the characteristics or things that you see that codependents do. And those in particular are things that resonate with me. But this book, as I said, amazing book, and this is not sponsored. Like, the list goes on for pages of the different characteristics and things, just bullet after bullet after bullet. So if you're thinking that you might even have a chance that you have codependency, please, even if you're not a reader, take the time to get this book. Now, being a codependent person isn't cute. It's not good. I know one sort of pitfall trap that people can fall into when they're codependent is not even realizing that they have a problem, and actually thinking that things like spending all their time in life caring about other people makes them a good person, or it's a good thing. And caring about other people is a good thing, but there's a difference between someone who's just really caring and they do a good job taking care of people, or between someone whose entire life is so, I guess for me the best way to put it is, I, as a codependent person, when I really dig down, I find that my obsessive need to control the feelings of the people around me is from a place of fear. Yeah, it feels really good to help people, But when we get down and dig down into the root of things, it's really fear. I'm afraid of what might happen if I don't control how that person's feeling or how they react or what this situation might lead to, because in the past I've been shown that either I have to take care of other people, or if I don't try to control situations, really bad things happen. So taking care of people, being very empathetic, that's great, but when you're codependent, it's at the cost of yourself. If you're like me, you don't even really know who you are, and it takes time. So healing is possible, it is necessary, and it does take time. You live a much more fulfilling life if you do. And I'm not talking from experience because I am still working. I am like just beginning my journey into overcoming this codependency thing. My major insecurities, a lot of them stem from my codependency. And I only learned that I have codependency, or that not have codependency. It's kind of up for debate. Some people consider it a disease, some people don't. But I only just realized I'm a codependent person probably a year, maybe not even a year ago, through therapy. So I found it out, I read the book, and so naturally I had a long way to go. It's one of those things that probably takes a lifetime of work, because these are habits that are so ingrained. Like in my situation, I've probably, now that I know the signs, been a codependent person for a very long time. So it takes time. You've got to kind of relearn. You've got to rediscover who you are. It is possible, and life can be so much more beautiful and so much more fulfilling once we get this all sorted out. So I hope that helped. If you're wondering what codependency is when I talk about that word, or maybe you found this video because you are a codependent person, or told you're a codependent person, found out that someone you love is a codependent person. Hopefully this video helps shine some light on what exactly that means in a nutshell. And hopefully if you found me, you will stick around and subscribe so you can follow me as I just openly share my struggles and the things that I'm working through to try to overcome codependency and insecurities and live with my ADHD and just everything. Alright guys, well I will see you next time. I don't ever know what to say at the end of videos. Like, I'll see you next time. Hopefully in a vlog, or bye!